7 IVF cycles, 38 eggs, 0 embryos, a placenta that was half scar tissue, a miscarriage alone in Cancun while your husband is in Houston. Those are from 4 different women who recently wrote into this podcast. It's been on the air now for about 6 weeks. If you're trying to get pregnant right now, or you're in the middle of IVF, or you've lost a baby and you're trying to get back to the starting line, you already know what these women are talking about. For many of us, motherhood does not start in the delivery room. It starts years earlier, sometimes a decade earlier, in appointments we weren't prepared for, bathrooms we cried in, 2-week waits that we told nobody about. That is the part of motherhood that nobody really writes the script for. And that is what today's episode of Tell Me I'm a Good Mom is about. And it's also your first community episode of Tell Me I'm a Good Mom, which has been wildly requested. And I'm so happy to be delivering on that request today. So I asked you guys what the format should be, and I got a mix of answers. People want stories. People want people from the community to come onto the show, and I plan to make that happen. But I also wanted to get a community episode out fast, so I'm recording a solo today. People also want question and answer, so we're going to do some Q&A also. I have this Google link that I send out to basically get inbounds from you guys so that you can ask me your questions and share your stories with me. And I have gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories from all of you so far. And the link to this document lives in the thing on Instagram where you can save your stories. I don't know what it's called. It's a little round thing on my profile. And if you click on it where it says Q&A form, you can put your information in if you want to share your story with me. So when I have gone to look at this form, I did expect certain themes to come up. Identity shift, the village, postpartum bodies, and all of that is in the inbox, and all of it is coming on future episodes. But the theme that I couldn't stop reading was this one that we're going to focus on today, and that is the part that happens before the baby exists. The miscarriages, the egg freezing, the IVF, the years of trying, the diagnoses that blindside you, the appointments where a doctor asked you something that you didn't have the vocabulary for yet. Because becoming a mother, for most of us, again, does not start in the delivery room. It starts way earlier, and nobody writes a script for that part. So this is us, the Good Mom community, writing one with hundreds of women sitting at the table next to us. 4 stories, 3 questions. Let's go. First story. Her name is Sherri. She is 39 and she's on the West Coast. And she opened her email with the line, "My journey to motherhood has been a wild one." And dear listener, it is. Sherri decided years ago she was going to be a single mom by choice. She called the original plan, quote, simple, which she now laughs at. 7 IVF cycles in, sperm donors, an endometriosis diagnosis. That is a mouthful. I have an endometriosis diagnosis. LOL. Autoimmune diseases uncovered along the way. Reproductive immunology. That's hard to say. Which if you haven't heard of, neither had I until Sherri. She's also learned more about American health insurance than any human should be forced to know. She's now pursuing surrogacy in Mexico City. She signed her match paperwork there last week, and she met her surrogate. There's a baby on the other side of this for her, and she's going to get there. But here's the line from her email that I keep coming back to. She said, "The hardest part hasn't been the failed cycles or the science or the money. It's been realizing that at 39, she might have to move back in with her parents to get through this next chapter." That's the part she wanted named. The regression nobody claps for. The moving back in at 39 part. I read that and I sat with it for a long time because the resilience gets applauded, but the cost doesn't. And that is true across every single story in this inbox. And there have been many times, even with my husband and my new baby, that Sherri, I have thought maybe we should just move back in with my parents. So I don't actually think that moving back in with your parents is a regression. I'm actually really proud of you and applaud you for doing that because you need support. And I believe that your parents can be a fantastic support system for you as you get through this next chapter. And if you are anywhere near Sherri's story right now, you are not soft for any of this because none of this is easy. In fact, it's incredibly hard. The other thing that I want to pull out is how much of her journey was about finding the right doctors. And I obviously have a ton of experience with that. I started my company, Love Wellness, because none of my doctors 10 years ago would listen to me. I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but I was depressed and anxious and had chronic vaginal health issues and tummy troubles. And it turns out that I had really severe vitamin deficiencies. And it took 18 months for my doctor to run a simple blood panel to figure that out. And it was that experience of really being gaslit by my general practitioner over and over again for 18 months as I continued to seek out care that encouraged me to start my business. And that story, on behalf of myself, is really the perfect segue to our first question this episode, because it comes from another woman in this community who's asking the exact thing that Sherri is still living. And this question came in anonymously. How did you find your medical team, your OB, your fertility doctor? It's so hard to find people who actually listen and understand. Every woman listening right now has had the appointment that this question comes from. The one where you leave the office and you're like, was she even listening to me? So here is how I think about it. The short version, I built mine by firing a lot of doctors. And I don't want that to come off in the wrong way or be received poorly, because I have a lot of fantastic doctors and I have a lot of friends who are doctors, but there are good doctors and there are bad doctors. Anyone can be good or bad at their job. And yes, doctors have incredible expertise in certain things, but they are human. And it is that humanness and the human nature to make mistakes that is what can be challenging about trusting, literally putting your life in the hands of somebody else. So the test that I use is, are they answering my questions or are they answering around them? If that doctor is answering around them, I'm out of there. The red flags that I walk on: being interrupted inside the first 90 seconds of an appointment, being told that's just how it is. I've been dealing with that with Nell a lot lately. She has CMPA and it's been really challenging. So it's already happening to my daughter. Being prescribed something before being asked a single follow-up question. Or being told any version of, well, you seem fine. I mean, literally, the you seem fine that I got for 18 months. Again, it's like my love wellness origin story. The questions I ask on a first consult now, and I have them written down for you here. What are the 3 most likely things going on here? What would you run for me from a testing perspective if cost was not an issue? If we don't see change in 90 days, what is our next move? And those 3 questions tell you more about a doctor in 60 seconds than their Yelp reviews will tell you in an hour. And the other thing, you are allowed to doctor shop. You are allowed to fire a specialist. You are allowed to walk out of appointment because it's not serving you and you don't feel guilty about the copay. Like, whatever. This is your body and you are paying doctors for a service. And if you're paying doctors for a service, you hope that that service is good, that it meets your needs. So this may have been not the answer that you expected in terms of like, how do you find your care team? Because I think the very obvious answer is that you go to your community, to your friends and family and people you know, and you get recommendations and you hear about people through word of mouth. That's how I think about finding doctors. And I have actually been working on something for a while now around this exact same thing. I'm like quietly working on it on the side. And it's turning out to be sort of like a guide on how to be the patient that doctors actually listen to, like a good patient per se. Because we want doctors in our corner. We love good doctors, but more on that soon. The short answer to this question is you have to trust the feeling in your body when you leave the appointment. And if you feel smaller than when you walked in, that's not the doctor. Find another one. Let's move on to our next story. So Megan got pregnant the first time she tried, and she was grateful. She also, in her words, lived low tox, ate clean, prided herself on her blood work, and then came a gestational diabetes diagnosis, which knocked her sideways because her whole framework for her body was that she could discipline her way into outcomes. I see myself so much in Megan reading that. And I also had gestational diabetes. She couldn't discipline her way into outcomes. Nobody can. I have learned that, and that is a separate episode. When it came time to give birth for Megan, she got induced. 40 hours of labor. 40. Oh my God. 3 hours of pushing. Her son Leo was born healthy. They rushed him away from her immediately because she had developed a uterine infection from her water breaking too early. She looked at her husband and told him, "You go with Leo." But her husband didn't want to leave her. She was still bleeding, still passing the placenta, still being stitched up. He went with Leo. She said later, he told her that it was the hardest thing he ever had to do. 3 days later, they're home. Leo is perfect. And then Megan's OB calls. They had sent her placenta to pathology. Half of it was scar tissue. On the phone, a week postpartum, the OB starts asking her questions. Have you ever lost a baby before? Have you miscarried before? Do you know what maternal floor infarction is? Megan is holding her newborn. Her mom is next to her, taking notes. Her husband is in the shower for the first time in days, and she's being asked questions in a vocabulary nobody had ever taught her. Here's the line from her email. She said, "I wobbled into a lab to get blood work done less than a week after giving birth." Months later, she and her husband tried for their second. She miscarried at 10 weeks, and every fear she had started to come back. Did I do this? What's wrong with me? Is there anything wrong with Leo? Now they're getting ready to try again. I see so much of my experience in Megan's experience. It's like so striking to me how similar so many of our stories are. The gestational diabetes, the uterine infection, the weird pathology on the placenta, all of those things have happened to me. And it's incredibly confusing. And what I keep thinking about in Megan's story is how most of her hardest moments happened in rooms nobody was in with her. And it's the same with me. The OB on the phone, the lab wobbling, the bathroom at 10 weeks. That is like the silence of this whole thing. For me, it was laying in the MRI machine before my placenta removal surgery before my D&C, and all those other things. The OB phone calls, the labs. Yeah. Her story leads perfectly into the second question because it is a version of something that Megan lived, but she didn't know that she was allowed to name. All right, real talk. Let's talk about bedtime. No, not my bedtime, my baby's bedtime. It's a whole production. It's probably a production in your house too. The lights, the sounds, the tubby, the jammies, the bottle, the routine. Of course, the small silent prayer that tonight is the night that she goes down without fuss and she sleeps through most of the night. The hatch baby has been one of the best additions to all of it. We have had our hatch baby in our house since day one. It is a sound machine, a nightlight, and a whole sleep system in one. But the part that nobody told me about, which is really cool, is that every hatch baby comes with 6 months of real expert sleep support built in to the app that you have on your phone. Real-time, one-on-one sleep consultant chat, milestone sleep guides, and the machine has actual science-backed lights and sounds. I love that. It's like having a sleep expert in your pocket for the phases that you cannot online search your way out of. And the hatch baby grows with her too, from bassinet days all the way to her big kid bed. And the hatch baby is in 1 and 3 nurseries. It is the #1 baby registry gift, which tracks. Every mom I know has one. Head to hatch.co/baby to shop and learn more. And you can also find Hatch Baby on Amazon, Target, and Babylist registries. Again, that's hatch.co/baby to shop and get real-time sleep support. I am someone who built a women's wellness brand, and I think a lot about what I'm bringing into my home and putting around my baby. It's just how my brain works at this point. So when I tell you I actually looked into Nuna before I started using it, I mean that. And the thing that stood out was that their entire car seat line is made without added fire retardant chemicals, FR free. That is not standard in this category, and it should be. Beyond that, the gear just works for my actual life. The Swiv stroller has 360-degree rotation on all 4 wheels, so you can move side to side and you can pivot instantly. In New York City, navigating doors, restaurants, walking my dog, it changes everything. I don't fight it. I just go. And I literally cannot go anywhere without the Pippa Urban car seat. It clicks into rideshares effortlessly. The bassinet has also been incredible in the early weeks of having our baby. It's all just thought through in a way that you can really feel. So if you are looking for a stroller, this is the brand that I would point you to. nunababy.com to shop or go into Nordstrom to actually test it. And I think you will immediately get it when you do. Time for a good mom goodie. Something nobody really prepares you for as a new mom is that you become the person who takes care of everyone else and you take care of yourself way less. Not on purpose. It just happens. And the moments where you actually feel looked after become these small things that you hold onto so much. And for me lately, it has been putting on my Cozy Earth robe, which I know sounds simple, but hear me out. Postpartum, your body is going through a lot, and the last thing you want is to feel uncomfortable in your own home. The robe is soft in a way that actually registers. Like you put it on and you exhale a little bit, spacious pockets, it moves with you. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a scratchy hotel situation. It's made from viscose from bamboo, and the quality is just different. I own a lot of robes, and the Cozy Earth robe is immaculate. The slippers are the same thing. You put them on and something in your nervous system just settles a little. And postpartum, I will take that every single time. I also know that Mother's Day is coming up, and if you are looking for something to give to the woman in your life, the mom you know who gives everything to everyone else, this is it. It is the kind of gift that says, I see the parts of your day that nobody else sees. Let this Mother's Day be a reminder that she deserves care too. Discover how Cozy Earth turns everyday routines into moments of softness and ease. So head to cozyearth.com and use my code GOODMOM for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on Tell Me I'm a Good Mom, because home starts with mom. So the second question of today's community episode is, am I allowed to grieve a pregnancy that quote unquote worked? This question came in like this. Is it okay to grieve a pregnancy or birth that technically went fine? I have a healthy baby. I'm so grateful. But something happened to me in those months, and I don't know what to do with it. I feel guilty even writing this. Okay. Yes. You are allowed. Here's what I actually want to say to this. Gratitude and grief are not opposites. They are not competing for the same chair in your nervous system. Both of them are going to sit down and neither of them is going anywhere. That is the whole thing. And I talk about this a lot on my social media, the duality of motherhood and even pregnancy and how confusing it can be. Because I think that our whole lives we are taught to be one thing or another thing. Pick your lane, right? You are allowed to love your baby with your entire body and also mourn the pregnancy that you thought that you were going to have. You are allowed to be grateful that your birth ended safely and also be furious at how it went. You are allowed to hold your healthy child and still be processing something that happened to your body that like nobody ever prepared you for. And I also talk about this a lot. Your experience becoming a mother is not necessarily about the love that you have for your child or the care that you provide to your child, right? That thinking that it's like all about the new baby skips moms entirely. You were there too. Something happened to you. You are allowed to have feelings about that that are not resolved by your gratitude of having a pregnancy that works and having a healthy baby. That's the reality. And I don't think that that gets acknowledged or talked about very often. And the other thing is that nobody outside of you can grade your grief or is allowed to grade your grief. It does not have to be like bad enough to count. Your grief is not on a leaderboard, it is yours. If you are a woman or you are near one that this relates to, I want to tell you the thing that I wish that somebody had told me, and that it's that the grief actually gets smaller when you let it out. It gets bigger when you swallow it. So find one person and tell them that's where this starts. I think, frankly, it's very rare to have a pregnancy or a birth that you don't grieve in some way also. For me, I grieve that we had to do IVF. Do you know what I mean? I feel sad that we weren't able to just get pregnant naturally, right? The origin story of our pregnancy is particular. I feel grief that I developed insulin-supported gestational diabetes, just like a lot of people that I hear from. I'm disappointed that my blood pressure skyrocketed and it sent me into the delivery room way earlier than we anticipated having our baby. And my C-section was scary. And obviously I have sort of told the story about what has happened afterwards on social media. I guess I'll tell it now in full. I gave birth in early January. The day after in the hospital, I fainted, which was weird, but I fainted. And I have told that story. Everyone ran into my room. They saved me. I turned out to be okay. I stopped bleeding pretty quickly, like 5 days, light bleeding. And then a month after I gave birth, I started to bleed really, really heavily. And it was scary. To this day, I don't know if I was hemorrhaging a little bit or what was happening. But I called my doctor and she said, hey, it's Sunday. If you don't want to go to the ER today, here's this medication you can take to stop the bleeding. Call me back if it gets worse. And thankfully it slowed down a little bit, but it didn't stop. I kept bleeding for weeks and weeks and weeks. And at my gestational diabetes checkup, which some doctors do postpartum to make sure that the gestational diabetes has actually gone away, I mentioned to the nurse practitioner who is there, hey, like I had this weird thing happen and I spoke to the doctor, but I'm still bleeding. And they did a scan and they were like, oh yeah, there's like a lot of blood in here. They gave me misoprostol. So I did misoprostol. And then I went back a week later. So I was still bleeding. And they gave me another round of misoprostol. And at that appointment on the scan, the doctor was like, looks like there's some placenta in here. Looks like you've retained some placenta. And from there, what happened was a series of weird and misfortunate events. In fact, it started the day that I was bleeding. I think I probably should have been forced into the ER by my doctor, but I didn't want to bother anybody. I think a lot of women feel that way. Like, unless I'm literally dying, why would I do that? But yeah, in hindsight, I wish that I had been pressed to get scanned that day, because I'm sure it would have shown the placenta then. Anyway, 2 rounds of misoprostol, many scans, got on progesterone to try to create a period in the hopes that it would shed the placenta. It did not. I get sent to a specialist because I had endo, and my doctor thinks that that person should do my surgery. So I go to the specialist, and, it takes a little bit of time to get on people's calendars. That surgeon, my surgeon, who is an incredible man, had me get an MRI before my surgery because he said, I can see everything on this scan here at the doctor's office, but there may be something more complicated going on. You may have something called an isthmusine, which creates like a little niche in the lining of your uterus at the area where your C-section scar heals or comes together. And he said, if it's that, we need to do a bigger surgery. So let's get you to an MRI and I can see what I need to see and make the decision. So I have the MRI and the MRI comes back normal. And I speak to my surgeon and he said, this isn't normal. We're doing the surgery. And I had some other clinical assessments provided to me, not at my request, but some other clinical assessments provided to me based on that MRI that I didn't ask for, that really threw me off. Basically, others looked at it and said, there's nothing in here. You're great. You're healing great. And I had surgery scheduled for 2 days later. So thankfully, I went through with the surgery. So I had the D&C, and they also cut out the placenta. And the placenta was the size of a grape. It was big. And the pathology came back a week later, and the pathology was very weird. It showed that my uterine lining was chronically infected, because if you retain placenta, often your uterus does not close all the way and the uterus is not sterile. And so it's not uncommon to get an infection. But now, I've been running an infection for months. And the other thing of note is that the placenta itself, the cells in the placenta were behaving like cancer cells. They were growing at an unusual rate, we will say. And when the certain types of cells in the placenta that they were tracking grow in a certain way, it can look like a very rare type of cancer that one can only get in the placenta. And I'm going to have to look it up for you really quickly because I have forgotten the name of it. It is called an ETT, epithelioid trophoblastic tumor, a rare slow-growing form of gestational trophoblastic neoplasm arising from placental site intermediate trophoblasts. And this can develop years after pregnancy if you have any placenta left behind. And the malignancy marker on this is their HCG is not 0. Thankfully, mine was 0, because if it was not, the next step would have been a hysterectomy as the primary treatment, because ETT is relatively chemotherapy resistant. All right, real talk. My getting ready routine right now has a hard 5-minute ceiling. If a product cannot pull its weight in that window, it is not coming with me. And that is exactly why I have been obsessed with Merit Beauty for a while now. I discovered this brand a couple of years ago, actually. But the two things that I am reaching for every single day right now, the lipstick and the Flush Balm blush. The blush is the one I really cannot shut up about. You swipe it on, you blend it with your finger, and you are done. It gives you that natural flushed look, like you just walked in from a brisk New York fall day instead of dragging yourself out of bed 40 minutes ago. Apparently, they sold one every 30 seconds in 2024, which, yeah, it makes sense because everyone I know has one, especially for somebody my age. I'm 39, and it just goes on so nice on my skin. It really just melts into the entire look, which is what I'm looking for when it comes to makeup. The lipstick is the second thing that lives in my bag permanently. It's the kind of thing where you put it on and you look polished without looking like you tried too hard. It feels very European in that way. It's my favorite kind of product. It is effort adjacent. It's not actual effort. And I am going to be honest with you about the signature makeup bag too. I ordered a bunch of products from Merit lately, and I did get the signature makeup bag, and it made me feel so special to get it in the mail, like the influencer girlies you see online that all have the Merit signature makeup bag. The entire Merit line is clean, it's vegan, it's cruelty-free, and it's actually made with skincare ingredients that are good for your skin. So you're not undoing all of your skincare with your makeup, which, you know, feels like very important these days. Right now, Merit Beauty is offering our listeners, the girlies, their signature makeup bag with your first order at meritbeauty.com. That's MERIT beauty.com to get your free signature makeup bag with your first order. meritbeauty.com. I'm going to say something that may be slightly controversial, but in your heart of hearts, I know that you probably agree with me. The mental load of running a household is completely out of control, like full stop. Parents are spending over 30 hours a week coordinating schedules, chores, who needs what, when, where. That's a part-time job that nobody signed up for, and nobody's getting paid to do it. Before I found my Skylight Calendar, my version of this system was sticky notes, a text thread with myself, and truly just the quiet hope that I wasn't forgetting something critical, which for the record, I usually was because I only had my baby a couple months ago. So mom brain is in full effect right now. But the Skylight Calendar is a touchscreen that lives on your wall, and it syncs to Google, Apple, Outlook, all of it. Everybody's schedule in one place, color-coded, actually visible. I love to be able to see. My brain wants a visual map. And my favorite feature so far is the grocery list. It turns into an Instacart order in 2 taps. Like, that feels borderline illegal that it's so easy. But families are better when they are working together. Right now, Skylight is offering our gorgeous listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to myskylight.com/goodmom. Go to myskylight.com/goodmom for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That is myskylight.com/goodmom. So to wrap this up, what I can tell you definitively, because I continue to live it every single day, is that gratitude and grief can coexist. You are allowed to grieve a pregnancy that works because there's a lot of nuance in that pregnancy, and anybody who has been through it knows it. We have another story from the community. I sat with this email for a while because every other story in this inbox has a specific kind of weight to it, but this one has a lift. And it's the one that I keep reading when I really need it. Her name is Crystal. She's 40. And I'm going to read this one closer to her own words because she wrote it beautifully, and I don't want to edit her out of it. Crystal spent most of her life certain that she did not want to be a mother. Not unsure, certain. And then, in her words, therapy cracked her open. Reiki, breath work, meditation did the rest. Somewhere in the healing, a desire she'd never let herself feel started to surface. She wanted to be a mom. She was 39. Hey, shout out 39-year-old moms. Me too. She went all in. She said she felt, in that way you can't fully explain to anyone who hasn't experienced it, that there was already a baby in orbit around her, already on the way. She found out she was pregnant the day before her 40th birthday party, spent the entire night secretly sipping non-alcoholic champagne, bloated beyond belief, grinning through every toast, holding the biggest secret of her life. 5 weeks later, she was in Cancun at a meditation retreat of all places when she miscarried. It escalated fast. She was rushed to the hospital for a D&C. Her husband was in Houston. She went through all of it alone. Here's what she didn't expect. She said she wasn't a mess. She was present. She trusted the doctors. She got through it. And the next day, she went back to the retreat. She knows how that sounds. But she said the love in that room was so high, she couldn't leave it. One of the women looked at her and asked, "How do you want to be supported right now?" And Crystal had no idea how to answer. She laughed and said, "Is there a multiple choice option?" And then she sobbed in the arms of strangers who held her like they'd known her for years. She called it one of the most devastating and most sacred experiences of her life. Both things fully true at the same time. When she got home, she did the thing most of us don't do. She grieved out loud. She told her colleagues. She let them tell other people. She is, by her own description, a deeply private person. And instead, she chose radical openness. What came back to her was staggering. Care packages, phone calls, flowers, people showing up for her in ways she didn't know that she needed. For the first time in her life, she let people help her through the hard stuff. She's back on her trying to conceive journey now, and she wrote this line. I've read it about 100 times. When I see pregnancy announcement on social media, I don't spiral. I genuinely think, good, the universe is warmed up and I'm next. Okay. The universe is warmed up and I'm next. That is the energetic posture I want every woman trying to conceive right now to have access to, even if she's not there today. And what I keep thinking about in Crystal's story isn't the miscarriage, even though it's devastating. It's the part where she let people help her, because most of us do not. Most of us grieve quietly and we call it strength. She called it radical openness, and I think that she is right. The question came in like this. Hi, Lo. Hi. I'm 32 and my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for about 8 months. In that time, I've had 2 UTIs and a yeast infection, and my OB just keeps giving me antibiotics and telling me it has nothing to do with fertility. Something feels off down there and I don't know what to do. Is there anything I should actually be doing for my vaginal health while I'm trying to conceive? This is making me crazy. Okay, I want to take this one slowly because it matters, and because 9 out of 10 women listening right now have some version of this and nobody has ever given them a real answer. First, you are not crazy. Something probably is off, and it does have to do with your fertility. Here's the thing that nobody tells you. Your vagina has its own microbiome. It is dominated by a family of bacteria called lactobacilli. And when those are thriving, the pH is acidic. Everything is regulated and infections do not take hold. But when they are disrupted, which can happen from antibiotics and hormone changes and stress and a dozen other things, your pH shifts and suddenly you're cycling through UTIs and yeast infections and BV, and your OB may be handing you another prescription that only is making the problem worse. There is real peer-reviewed research now connecting vaginal microbiome health to conception rates, to implantation, to pregnancy outcomes. This is not woo-woo. This is science. The medical system has been slow to fold into fertility care, and that is changing, but it is changing slowly. And in the meantime, women are being told by some doctors that this has nothing to do with anything. And this is literally why I started Love Wellness. I was the woman this question is from. Like, this was me. Recurring infections in my 20s, doctors who just shrugged and kept writing antibiotics and antifungals. And if you know anything about the vaginal microbiome, it's like so hard for it long term because you're wiping out the good bacteria along with the bad, and you can end up in a loop. But I get it. You need the antibiotics, but you also need to support the vaginal microbiome. So in 2016, I built a product for this exactly. It's called Good Girl Probiotics. It contains clinically studied strains of lactobacillus designed to colonize the vaginal microbiome the way your body actually wants them to. It helps to support pH balance. It helps to crowd out the bacteria that can cause all of these weird things. And it is the product that I wish I had when I was 25 and nobody was explaining any of this to me because nobody was really practicing this in women's health. I take it every single day. I took it through my fertility journey. I took it through my pregnancy. I'm taking it now. The vaginal microbiome has everything to do with infections. It has everything to do with supporting fertility and pregnancy. If your doctor is not all about vaginal probiotics at this point, I would just encourage them to go read some peer-reviewed research. This is the science. The medical system has been slow to fold into fertility care. That is changing. It is changing slowly. But in the meantime, sometimes women are being told that their vagina problems don't really mean much, that the vaginal microbiome has nothing to do with anything, but it has everything to do with everything. Back to the question, because the vaginal probiotic is one piece of this. Sorry, you can hear Nell crying, but it is not the whole answer, and I don't want to send you off with just that. If you are the woman who wrote in, here's what I would actually do in this order. First, you need to find a new OB using the framework that we talked about earlier in this episode. You need someone who takes your microbiome seriously. 2, try to stop cycling through antibiotics as the only line of defense. Ask your doctor just like what else is on the table. 3, support your vaginal microbiome actively. Probiotics, hydration, fragrance-free everything, cotton underwear, the basics. 4, know that this is connected to your fertility even when your doctor hasn't read that research. And the bigger thing that I want you to walk away from this whole episode with, every part of motherhood, before the baby, during it, after it, is about rebalancing the microbiome, your body, your doctors, your village, your nervous system. You build the ecosystem, right? You are not crazy. You are paying attention. Keep doing that. Okay. This was the first one, the first community episode. I hope this episode landed. I did a lot of work to highlight the stories that felt right for today's theme. I did my best to pick out questions to help connect the dots. If you are in any part of what we talked about today, I want you to hear this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not soft. You are in the middle of something that takes a long time, and it costs more than anybody tells you. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still trying is the whole thing. To the women who let me read their stories today, thank you. And to every woman whose email I haven't gotten to yet, I'm getting there. This is the beginning, not the end. The next community episode, I think, is going to be about identity, who we are now, the version of ourselves we keep looking for. So if you have a story or a question for that one, you know that the link lives in my Instagram, those little story highlights. I want to hear from you. So please subscribe where you're listening, follow where you're listening. Please leave me a comment or a rating or review. And that is today's first community episode.